Hey everyone, Mazz here, and I'm back with my man Faccia. Faccia, what are we doing today?
Today we're smoking the Arturo Fuente Opus X Oro Oscuro.
Man, I am ready for this.
I'm
taste.
psyched for this
You ready?
one. Yeah.
Let's get into it.
All right.
How good is this cigar?
Excellent.
Isn't it? And obviously, it's a treat,
Yes.
even for us.
Yeah.
You know, we are very, very fortunate to be able to smoke product like this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? This is an outstanding cigar. You know, and as rare as Opus is in the market, this version of it, the Oscuro, is even that much more rare. But it's a fantastic cigar.
Woo.
Definitely a lot of spice, right?
Woo.
I mean, to me, like when people say spice bomb, this cigar, especially the Oscuro.
This definitely has spice.
Opus in general, to me, has spice, a lot of leather. But this cigar is so spice forward, right? Even more so than the original Opus.
100%. I mean, this has so much more going on.
It's more intense.
It's way more intense.
Yeah.
Leathery, spicy.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Earthy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because all the tobaccos in the cigar come from Chateau de la Fuente, which obviously the Opus does as well.
Right.
The Oscuro is fermented for longer periods of time. But for longer fermentation, you need to move up in primings because the tobacco, the leaves have to be thicker
Right.
to withstand, you know, the heat in fermentation, what gives it this beautiful color. So when you step up, obviously, the priming of the tobacco, of course it's going to be more intense because they're the last leaves that kind of come off
Right.
the tobacco plant. So for people that really enjoy Opus and they want even a more intense experience, this cigar is phenomenal for that. You know?
Yep.
And the thing is, I really enjoyed this cigar because it's got all those big flavors, but it also is a cigar to me that settles. Like once we get a little further into it, it settles and then it brings out a little bit more nuances.
Right.
It does settle. But man, when I tell you, you first like this cigar, you better strap in.
Oh, you definitely have to strap in.
It's spicy.
I mean, when it settles down, you're definitely going to pick up more of those chocolatey notes.
Yeah.
You know, that dark chocolate,
You know,
cocoa.
True. But you know, it's funny, visually, when you look at it, you know, it looks like a Maduro variation
Right.
of the, you know, Opus. But, you know, when I think of Maduro, especially from Fuente, I think of broadleaf.
Correct.
Which has inherent sweetness. I do get some like cocoa, or maybe I get more like, I guess, dark chocolate notes from the cigar. I don't find a lot of sweetness in the cigar, which is fine because I'm not really looking for it because I know going in with this cigar that I'm not going to get that. But it is deceiving to look at because when I think of Fuente and I think of their Maduro variations, it's always broadleaf,
Right.
which comes across sweet.
And this happens to be a Dominican Rosado Oscuro, correct?
Yeah, it's Dominican wrapper. Again, all the tobaccos come from Chateau de la Fuente. But again, if you're going to do a longer fermentation, it needs to be a higher priming.
Yep.
So, you know, where Opus, when you look at it, it's a beautiful color Rosado wrapper. It comes from lower down in the plant. It's a little more sensitive. That's the thing too, for people out there that say, you know, I really like the Opus, but I got to be really careful when I smoke it because it tastes phenomenal, but it could be a sensitive wrapper.
Oh, yeah.
The Oscuro has a little bit more thickness, right? And there's a little bit more oil in this wrapper, because obviously because of the priming.
Sure, you can
But-
see it.
Yeah, and it gives off a lot of intensity, a lot of intensity. That's like, I always say, like when I first fire up a cigar and I start thinking about descriptors, like what comes to mind first? As soon as we lit the cigar, I'm thinking intense. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Intense and pepper, you know. And if I can't really put my finger on it per se, but it leans more towards like away from baking spices. And when I say pepper, it leans towards like cayenne.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even a black pepper note maybe.
Right.
But it's peppery and leathery at the same time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's definitely a treat doing this because we get to smoke such great cigars, like you said. And man, I mean, this is unreal.
I mean, when you think about it, Oro Oscuro, right? It just means really, Oro just means gold.
Right.
Right? And Oscuro just means dark. So it translates to basically dark gold, right? And it really is dark gold.
Yeah.
Right? It is really interesting how Carlito and his father, Don Carlos at the time, like how they continuously went back to the well and coming up with new blends and different ways to reinvent themselves in a way. You know, Opus obviously one of the most revered cigars in the world, and they're like, you know what are we going to do next in that vein? You know,
Right.
What do we bring to the market that is not used yet?
Right.
So they just go up in primings and they lay the tobacco.
I mean,
down.
it's amazing how much tobacco they have to do all these projects and come out with these new blends.
Well, you know, listen, they've been at it for a long time now, and when you've been at it for a long time, you have the opportunity to reserve tobacco, to age tobacco, and I've been fortunate enough to be down in the Dominican Republic at the Fuente facility, and you know, I'm not their accounting team. I didn't count bales of tobacco, but when I tell you, I was blown away about the amount of tobacco that they have in reserve, and you know, and that's an advantage that they have over a lot of manufacturers because they've been at it for such a long time. They have these old tobaccos that they blend with, when I say newer tobaccos that maybe are 15 years old,
Yeah, it's crazy.
20 years old, right? Yeah. Then they blend them with tobaccos that are maybe 5 years old. And that's kind of like a secret weapon because no one has that tobacco 20 years old. Not everyone.
Right.
Some people might have some of it, companies that have been at it for a while, but that's the reason why Fuente is Fuente.
Yeah.
You know, they have an arsenal of tobacco second to none, and they know exactly what to do with it and how to put it together.
Yep.
Because it's one thing if you have great bumper crops of tobacco and you age them for a long period of time, but if you don't put them in the right blend, they just don't work.
Right.
So, but this cigar is outstanding, you know. And it's funny because, of course, we don't even get a chance to smoke many regular Opus.
Correct.
But when we do, obviously we enjoy it. The Oscuro is even that much rare.
Sure.
So when it comes to this cigar, it's always a treat for me to smoke the cigar. Because, and the other thing is, in my opinion, there's nothing else like this. This cigar is unique to
This particular one, or you mean the Opus in general?
Well, in general, the Opus,
Right.
but especially this one, both of them. But this cigar, to me, like I can't get what I get from this cigar. Yeah, there's tasting notes that are similar. Do I get pepper from other cigars and leather? Of course I do.
They're just so unique.
Yeah.
They have such a unique taste, you know, all by themselves. It's amazing. It really is. To me, it's amazing how Carlito comes up with cigars this good.
Well, dude, they call him the toy maker for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, that's like his literally, go down to the Dominican Republic, it's like his lab. You know, he's down there and he's putting shit together and he's like, you know, blowing the doors off of people. Like they're blowing their minds when he comes out with stuff. And you know, this is something that, you know, knowing him, it probably just started as a prototype. He was probably messing around with tobaccos, messing around with different primings, got this wrapper, and then started experimenting with it. And then, boom, he nailed it and brought it to the market. And by the way, the packaging, I don't know if you people out there have ever seen the packaging of this cigar. It's beautiful. There's yellow lacquer boxes. It's a beautiful presentation. You know, and let's face it, we smoke with our eyes.
We do.
I mean, look at the band alone. You could smoke the cigar anywhere in the world, and people would be admiring it from across the room.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like, it's got the Opus that has the Destino Siglo secondary band, this beautiful dark oily wrapper. I mean.
And this happens to be one of my favorite sizes, by the way. I don't know if you picked it.
No.
But the double Robusto.
The guys picked it for us, but it is the double Robusto.
Yep.
These guys know their stuff because that's even a little bit more rarer than even the traditional sizes. So it's a 5 3/4 by 52.
Yep.
So to me, that's like a perfect size. You know, I think if it got to a 54, would I still enjoy it? Of course I would. But I like that 52, 5 3/4.
Yeah, I always said my favorite size in a cigar would be 6.5 52.
So if you were going to come out with a Foch cigar,
6.5 52.
that would be your first size. That's a good size.
Yeah.
I mean, Robusto traditionally is the most popular size in the market. Toro is second.
Yep.
Right? So you have to have a Robusto, you have to have a Toro. Then when you get the double Robusto, it's nice. Because everybody has different, you know, ideas of how thick a cigar should be. And Fuente is an old school factory where do they do some big ring ages? They do. But traditionally, even when they go bigger, it's like 52, 54. You know,
I mean,
they don't.
Fuente doesn't really, he makes maybe 160 that I know of.
They dabble, you know, like, you know, the Magnum R series is a big one. But overall, they're more traditional sizes. So when people look at this, they're like double Robusto, you know, what's so big? It's not that big. No, it's not. It's not meant to be that way.
Right.
You know, and to me, this is a perfect size. And the cigar, it will last you a while. This cigar burns really slow because of obviously the nature of the tobacco, how thick that wrapper is, how much oil is in that wrapper. So Foch, if you were smoking the cigar blindly, no
Right.
band, even though obviously you know it's Dominican tobacco, Dominican Puro, would it come off to you as if it had maybe Nicaraguan tobacco by the intensity and how it smokes?
I mean, I could see that. I think I would definitely know that it's some sort of Fuente product or Opus.
Yeah, to me, it's unmistakable. There.
Yeah, but I could see where some people might think that there might be that, maybe a little dose of something else in there.
But my point is that I think for people out there that are fans of Nicaraguan tobacco, and let's say maybe I'm not a Dominican tobacco fan.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
This is a cigar that they could smoke and enjoy because
oh, sure.
the intensity of it is kind of very familiar, and I think that people should definitely not just be like, I'm not a Dominican tobacco fan.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, especially with this Oscuro version, it has such intensity that I think it just smokes a little differently, you know? But
yeah, it definitely smokes way different than the original Opus. I'll say that.
Yeah, but my point is, like, I'm thinking fans of like full-bodied Nicaraguan cigars would smoke the cigar and thoroughly enjoy it. Is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
No, I got you. I agree.
There's a lot of complexity to it, but there's an intensity that you just, a lot of times you don't get from Dominican tobacco. Again, Opus itself is definitely an intense cigar.
Yeah.
And to me, we always talk about that signature Fuente flavor. This cigar.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Do you get any of that mesquite flavor out of this cigar? I'm getting.
Yeah, I do.
You know what I'm talking
No,
about?
I do. You know what? Because it's an intense woodiness.
Yeah.
And it definitely, because of the spice mixed with that woodiness, it comes off as a mesquite, or some people might even say hickory.
Right.
Some
It definitely has that.
Yeah, I get it, but I think you nailed it. I think it's more that mesquite note, because I think anytime you get a cigar with that much intensity that combines, a woodiness and pepper and spice.
Right.
When you think about it, that's what mesquite really is.
Right. I mean, it almost has like a smoky quality.
It does.
You
it
know?
does. And it really lingers on the palate.
Yeah.
This cigar has a really long finish, right?
Which I love.
I mean, listen, the cigar's so good, you want to savor it, but it's a cigar that, to me, as you're like exhaling and it just rests on the palate, like you could taste how good the tobacco is. There's age on the tobacco. There's definitely no rough edges on the tobacco, right? It's like, it's weird when you get halfway through a cigar like this, which we're kind of almost at the halfway point, it's almost like sad, because you're like,
yeah, you don't want it to end.
It's almost gone. You don't want it to end. That's when you know a cigar is so good. When you're already thinking about it, you're like, damn. You know what I mean? You almost want to add a couple more inches to the cigar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since we're almost halfway through it,
Yeah.
I see you have a pairing for us.
Well, yeah. I mean, today's theme is gold, Oro, Oro Oscuro. So with that in mind, I went with the Glenmorangie Nectar d'Oro, right? Golden nectar.
That should pair very well with this one.
I think it will. I mean, I think it brings some intensity. I know it brings some sweetness.
Right.
So before we get into talking about it, what if we get a little pour action going?
Yeah.
You want to do the honors?
Sure.
And we'll talk about the pairing?
Yep.
All right, let's get into it. Golden nectar.
Yep. Very good.
Nectar is the word that nails it. I mean, obviously golden. Look at the color.
And it's beautiful color, light golden color.
But it really is like fruity. It's assertive, but not overly assertive. It definitely stands up to the cigar. I like the way it balances it out because, as I said earlier, I don't get sweetness from the cigar.
No. Well, what's unique to me is that I think it's aged in Sauterne barrels.
Correct.
Which I don't think I've had any other Scotch or spirit besides this that was aged in Sauterne barrels.
I don't know if anybody else is doing that. So essentially what they do is they age it in bourbon barrels for, even though there's no age statement,
Right.
it's about a 10-year process that's aged in bourbon barrels. Then it's finished in Sauterne barrels,
Right.
which is a French dessert wine, which is as a rare wine as it is.
Right.
So to age the Scotch and, finish it in Sauterne, cask is unique.
Yeah.
And that's what definitely gives it that kind of fruitiness. Because if you ever had a Sauterne, it's a phenomenal French dessert wine.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had Sauterne.
Yeah, but it goes great with a cigar, by the way.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, not just the Scotch, a Sauterne does. And we talk about like times where you and I think both agree, the wine that we drink regularly is usually a drier wine.
Right.
They kind of clash with cigars for the most part. But when you have something that has some sweetness, whether it's port or Sauterne, it really complements, especially a spicy cigar.
Well, yeah,
like
it definitely complements this cigar, being this cigar has got so much spice. I think the sweetness definitely balances out,
this. Yeah.
both.
Glenmorangie,
Glenmorangie, I believe.
right?
Yeah.
Everyone.
Glenmorangie, that's what I used to say.
Glenmorangie. Glenmorangie, right?
Yep.
And we've touched on it before, but we actually had the master distiller from Glenmorangie here, Dr. Bill Lumstead, several years back. And this was part of they did flights.
Yeah.
And this was part of the flight.
That's when I first had it.
Yeah. I want to say this might have been the second or third Scotch in. They start out with the original, which they always do with their
Right.
tastings. But Bill Lumstead was an interesting guy. Like he smokes cigars occasionally. Obviously, he's got to keep his palate honed in, so he's mostly messing with Scotch. But he does enjoy cigars. I mean, that's the reason why he came here too. But I remember when I first had this Scotch, and I guess it's the uniqueness, as you said, of the finishing that gave it its kind of like very fruity but assertive flavor.
Yeah, it's very easy to drink. I mean, it's not high in alcohol. It's like 92%.
Yeah, but like I said, when I say something's assertive, I think in my mind it stands up to the cigar. Because you wouldn't want it to be just sweet.
Right.
Because there's definitely layers of flavor to it. It has a very much a quintessential Scotch taste to it.
Sure. You could definitely taste the oak.
What kind of fruit are you getting? I'm curious what you're getting.
Let me see.
Because I know I'm getting something that's...
All right, hold on. You know what you're getting, though.
I do. It's very complimentary to
On the nose or the palate?
but actually more on the palate.
Okay.
I should start writing it down and showing the audience. See if you can get it. If you nail this, dude, I'm gonna be like.
I mean, I'm definitely getting honey.
Okay.
Maybe like it's either apple or pear.
Ooh, I thought you were gonna say it. It might
Apricot?
be apricot. It is. But there's apple there too. And when you think about like even when you said pear, you think about when you get a really ripe pear.
Right.
It's like the best apple you ever eat. You know what I mean?
I love pears.
I do too. But it has such a unique kind of like way of resting on the palate. It's almost like apricots, like
right.
like jam. I love it, and I just like the fact how it balances out the cigar because you kind of need that contrast with the cigar.
Yep.
I think if you went with, and obviously if you're in this peaty or smoky scotches, you could try it, but it might be a little bit much sensation-wise. You know what I mean? Having this big cigar with all these intense flavors, and then go with a peated or smoked scotch. You could try it, put it together, but to me, I think the cigar needs something like this. That's assertive, but yet it has a unique sweetness to it, very fruity, right? And I like the combination a lot. And it just so happens that it fits the theme. We're talking about gold today, Oro. So it's funny, when I knew we were going to be doing this tasting, and I was racking my brain, I was like, where do we go with this? Because, obviously you can go with a bourbon, you can.
Yeah, you could do a lot of things.
You can do a lot of things. You honestly, if you're a tequila guy, there's high-end tequilas out there. I would think like a really good Reposado or Añejo would go well. But I kept coming back to this when I thought of the word, Oro. I'm like, Nectar de Oro, right? So I thought it would go really well, and I thought the cigar needed more. I think it needed that contrast.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have picked something, real spicy.
Right. And there's people out there that comment at times, and listen, they're right by saying this sometimes. They're like, no, you got to go more with a spirit that's more assertive, and you can. But a lot of times it's better to have like less is more with a spirit sometimes, because if you go too much, then you really just bombard the palate with kind of linear flavors. I think when you just dial it back, and I'm not saying it's thin in any way, because it's not. As a matter of fact, this it lingers on the palate. This Scotch. If you look at it in a glass, it almost has like legs, like a good wine would.
I think that people think that when they're smoking a stronger cigar, that they have to have a powerful spirit to go with it, which I don't think that's the case. I think when you have that lighter liquor or alcohol, I think it plays well with the cigar a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it really matters on the tasting notes, and I think having that contrast just really helps. But I think people have a tendency to be like, this is a balls to the wall cigar.
Right, and then they'll shy away from like a lighter liquor.
Right.
You know
but
what
again,
I mean?
it has to have balance.
Well, no, it definitely does. But what I'm saying is like a lighter liquor will definitely stand up to a cigar that's strong.
It will, and I think you have to experiment with that at home because obviously taste is personal, it's individual. But I always err on the side of I'd rather come in a little bit more of a spirit that's a little bit more approachable.
Yes.
Than a spirit that just like bombards my palate.
I agree.
Especially when I'm like experimenting.
Right.
Because I could always dial it up next
Sure.
time. We could always dial it back up. But then when you find something like this and you're like, you know what? I think this suits me just fine.
Sure.
I like the contrast of it.
Right. I mean, you don't have to go crazy, balls to the wall, high alcohol, barrel proof, or above.
No.
Just go with something nice and easy.
Right. But the one thing would be interesting, though, if you did do that and you did decide, I'm going to go with a bourbon, like American whiskey, and I'm going to go balls to the wall with maybe like a Booker's, you know what I mean? The cigar would resonate differently.
Yeah, it definitely would.
Right, but it would be a different tasting for a different time.
Right.
But that's why when we talk about pairings, that's the uniqueness of it, because what you pair it with really has the cigar resonate in a different way. Absolutely, that's the beauty of pairings. That's why I love putting things together, and really the experimenting is part of the fun.
Yeah.
Right. But when you strike gold,
no pun intended.
Pun intended. When you strike gold like this, it's a win. It's a win, man. As a brand, as a distillery, Glenmorangie never lets me down, I have to say.
Yep.
And I like the fact that, you could find it.
Yep.
Like all scotches and bourbons these days, are getting up there a little bit at times.
Yeah.
But again, for the enjoyment you get out of it, you're sitting back, nice pour, last year the entire cigar.
Yeah.
It's well worth it.
Oh yeah, you know that I love Glendronach. Obviously, we talk about it all the time, but
which I'm a fan too.
But I do have a Glenmorangie at home that I really enjoy.
Which one you have at
Signet.
home? Signet's good.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
I mean, that would have been.
Signet would have worked with this.
It would have definitely worked.
It would have worked. I get a lot of like Luxardo cherry kind of notes from the Signet.
It's just so good.
Yeah.
It's just so different.
Yeah. But I kind of like this apricot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great brand.
Right? Yeah, so I just like the way it pairs with the cigar and just contrasts the cigar.
Yeah.
Because this is an intense cigar. By the way, this thing's getting me a little bit.
It is?
Yeah. Well, dude, honestly, this is a special cigar. When you think about it, there's not many cigars in the market that are almost unrivaled, right?
True.
This cigar is unrivaled. It's in a category all by itself. Even in the Opus world, it's in its own category, the Oscuro. So it's a very, very special cigar. If I want to replicate this flavor, I have to light another one of these.
Right, you can't do it.
I can't replicate it anywhere. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of great manufacturers out there.
Yeah.
Right? We don't even have to go through the list. You guys, right off the top of your head, you can name a bunch of them. But the uniqueness of this cigar is amazing. And it's very, very special. And I just can't get it from anything else but this cigar.
It's true.
The only way to get it is just, like as I said, light another one.
Light another one, yeah.
Yeah. And that's hard for us to find. In our world, that doesn't happen a lot.
Right.
So for people out there, you might, hopefully you respect our opinion about cigars. That's what we've been doing our whole adult life. Yeah. When we say that, we mean that. I mean, it's a unique cigar and a unique experience that at some point you should definitely experience for yourself.
Absolutely.
It's definitely more of a unicorn of a cigar.
Oh yeah.
But when available to you, get them, lay them down for a little bit, wait for the right occasion, and you'll be chasing that dragon, boy. Yeah. Because once you have it, you have it.
You're gonna want more.
And there's nothing else like it.
Yep.
You got to go back to the well. So grab a couple,
Yep.
and do yourself a favor. Get some Nectar d'Or and put it together, right? You're not gonna be disappointed.
Nope.
You're gonna be like, Faccia and Mazz steered me right? For sure. So listen, great pairing.
Yes.
Phenomenal cigar. Unreal scotch.
Yep.
And obviously great conversation.
Yeah.
What more can you ask for, right?
Not much more.
So I want to thank you all for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. But before we depart, make sure you hit that like button.
Smash the subscribe button.
And we'll see you here next time. Salute, my boy.